Okay, so medical as in physiotherapy. My background is a physiotherapist in musculoskeletal practice, so that's sort of knees and hip problems and things. So I found myself actually out of my depth dealing with frailty. Our actual avatar has what we call frailty syndrome, which I'll go through in a moment. So it's kind of been an outsider position from the research, but sort of insider having some clinical background. And outsider from research as well. So I'm in my second year of PhD going into my third, looking into the abyss. So this is the team. Some of you I think know Petros, who's our gamification person at a neighbouring institute. The rest of us are from the Healthcare Institute over at Coventry University. So we have Natasha from simulation, and Nikki is a design manager, so she's our expert in co-creation. And we have Professor Rosie Neefsey, who's our leadership, and she runs the centre. So, frailty. The way to best describe it is it's a complex syndrome that it is associated with ageing, but not necessarily so. It's actually characterised by reduced sort of capacity to deal with stress. So what we have with, as I say, commonly elderly people who develop this syndrome is a situation where they have reduced energy, mental capacity, and they're at the edge, almost a knife point of tipping into potentially a catastrophic decline. You can have falls, hospitalizations, and it's one of these things that as a profession we're learning to pick up and be more proactive about, because it really can take people by surprise. But if we really look quite closely, there are always clues, and that's kind of what this education is about in a large part. So, frailty needs to be managed with a connected approach. There is no way one specialist can deal with this because of the nature of it being a multi-system issue, but it also needs the eyes of not only healthcare, but social care to be connected. And this is one of the big problems we have in the UK. 4% of the population have frailty, but they occupy 40% of the UK inpatient population. Now, 20% of those people can go home today if there was adequate social care provision. So we actually have an issue that it's everyone's problem, not just that of the elderly. And of course, as the NHS rightly identified in their first commissioned report from government, this is our biggest, most immediate issue with the ageing population. It's frailty and it's mental health. This also outlined virtual technologies as one way to manage the issue, because we're obviously going to have an increase on services for healthcare, and we need to increase the intake. So it's a very ambitious plan, the NHS long-term plan. And given that the NHS is already at the seams, virtual was one way that we went because of the pandemic, and so it's gained a lot more acceptability. So that was sort of why I was called on. That was the brief. It was something to do with virtual education and the student experience. Go. Fantastic. And we have a company, as we mentioned, PCS Sparks, who Coventry are a client of. So basically, I'll show you the software, of course, just building the suspense. It's a situation where we are simulating a patient by the name of Sarah Potter. That's why she was on our lead slide, because she is real and this problem is real. Now, I was speaking to someone the night before I flew out here. I was our ethics person in artificial intelligence, and I had this imposter syndrome in my head. Like, I'm healthcare. Why am I talking to a technical audience? Why am I talking to an audience in gamification and so forth? And she put me to right on the AI aspect. She said, you are doing AI. I'm not programming, but we're not calling it programming anyway, right? I am, because we are simulating a human. And when you look at the history of artificial intelligence, that's what it actually is. Now, this is all underpinned by social constructivism, as I'm about to say on one of the next slides. So I'm going to open it out to the floor now. What is human intelligence? Because there's so many facets to this, and how are we going to artificially create this if we don't? We need a really broad definition. I know I've got some great minds in the room. Anyone want to shout out there? What is it that makes us uniquely human and intelligent? Intuition? Yeah. Intuition's a very good one, isn't it? Because it's different to instinct. Yeah. and it does separate, absolutely. And so there's also metacognition in a sense, as a clinician, being able to think about your own thinking. And that's actually an element. If you develop expertise, intuition is an extension of that. You need that base to be able to have that intuition, but the way that you play that out is through a process of metacognition. So this is definitely something that separates human intelligence. And I don't know if AI is there yet with that, but this is the roadmap. Empathy is another big one, isn't it? Any other, there's emotional intelligence. It's not necessarily academic intelligence or being able to put something together and spit out an answer. There's all these aspects to human intelligence. Anyone else want to throw something out? Self-awareness, absolutely. And that kind of links quite closely, doesn't it, to the metacognition aspect. That we're self-aware, that we can think about our own thoughts and our emotions and our reactions. Absolutely. Yes?
Actually, the models themselves. So if you're modeling the structures of the human brain, the models are very different from the models we use in AI right now, right? So the whole structures are not, it's not just similar, it's very different.
As in large language models or neural networks?
Yes.
Yeah. So it's funny though, isn't it? Because like neural networks is actually like modeled on the human brain, except that the human brain is infinitely more complex. Yeah. So it's taken inspiration, it's called neural networks, but so is there any such thing as artificial intelligence? That's the other question, isn't there? Or is this a journey? I mean, it's a journey that's been going on since the 50s, and that's the history lesson. So I'll move on. The stuff that came out of the pandemic was, by definition, an emergency. So we really need to be looking at these three principles moving forward. This was by a healthcare collaboration that saw the need to really bring forward, some strong research and have this opportunity. So that's what we're hoping and planning to do with this project. As I said, social constructivism, so it's what people bring to the room, because that has a nice tie with interprofessional education and it follows those themes. It's based on design thinking, so it is empathy at the heart of it. What is it that the user needs? And let's build prototypes, let's go non-linear and iterative and bring as many stakeholders as we can to the table. So the development of itself is also a network. And the co-creation involved 70 participants, up to, I would have consulted 100 in total. Clinicians, students, practice partners, academics and technologists. And that was across 20 organisations. So we have universities, NHS Trust, yeah, I've been busy. But it goes to show the enthusiasm people have. Like, it just was snowball recruitment. I was like, we're about inclusion, come over and let's have this conversation. So this virtual patient has a pathway across 10 different professions. And what we had to do was integrate that story across 3 different time points. So it has that gamification element of a journey in there, and I'm planning to do this. We haven't got there yet. So it'll be a qualitative thematic analysis of the co-creation. And our aim is to design and develop and evaluate an interprofessional education virtual simulated placement, which is a mouthful. We're creating a digital human, okay, in its rudimentary form and as a start point. And so the website has those 3 phases that I talked about because it's relevant to the situation in care. Admission avoidance is a massive agenda. You can do harm to someone with frailty syndrome by just sending them to hospital. Serious harm. So the risk situation and how to be creative with that is very, very different, and we're all still learning with that. And then, of course, there is going to be the emergency scenario, however much you try to avoid and prevent. So you're going down the downstream situation of then secondary prevention and trying to ensure that it doesn't happen again. Now let me take you to the website in its prototype form. This is Group Sim, and we have Sarah's journey here. I won't bore you with this. These are her clinical notes, and 2 and 3. What we did then is we created the activities around that. What are the learning outcomes? And we've got certain gamified elements. So the first one that you meet is immersive storytelling. So that the student really gets that Sarah is a person, this could be me, and that's really grounded in it. And there's some breadcrumbs that maybe are missed later down the track that we then rewind and get them to come through. So time permitting, I'll take you through the actual watercolour animation and the change of how, and then there's some reflection questions. There's this is from Cooler. I don't know if anyone's familiar with the technology. It's quite a fun little thing. Put the sound up on this. That would help when we get to the avatar. And essentially you follow her on a journey. So she meets the GP. Oh, we have a sound issue. Help. Do I need to plug it into... I'll give it a go. Okay. Is it coming through my laptop?
Yes, it's coming through your laptop.
Or maybe it's just turned down. Let me turn it up. Should be getting sound now.
I have assessed your risk and I recommend...
That's not beaming out, is it? That could be a problem when we chat to the avatar. I'll move on and we'll work with the technicalities.
That sounds serious.
So then we've got 360 film. So what happened here was we put ourselves in the shoes of Sarah having fallen on the floor. So it's point of view from her, and we had lots of fun and challenges. This is our Mark 1. The guys that are actually working and editing Mark 2. What we're planning to do is put it into a 12-minute space, because although it's necessary for the students to see what's, how it plays out, it's also from an engagement perspective, maybe have a trailer. And the trailer was 12 minutes. So, shall I try again? I'll try the YouTube bit. This. It will come now. No.
Oh, come in, the door's unlocked and I really need your help.
Shall I just leave that running? And then we can keep testing. So yeah, they come to poor Sarah's aid, urgent community responder, admission avoidance situation. And then in phase 2, 6 months later, she fractures a hip and has a hospital admission and needs, hip replacement. And then is the discharge of planning home. And it's at that point we would hope the students start to pick up on, heck, how did she get to this place without some kind of allied health particularly. So this is occupational therapy and physiotherapy in the prototype that we're looking at. Brilliant. And what we can do, if anyone's interested, is I've got a Miro page with all the resources, and you can just click, meter, play, put some comments on there about what you think, and we can go from there. Apologies about the sound issue that we didn't get Sarah up on the screen. But, it's fun to save something for next time. And then we've got that game there as well. So this is the Miro screen, which had we all been tabletop, I would have had it us all sort of playing around with the gamified elements. You've got the site there, the exercise of what is AI, throw some comments on that, and so forth. There's a section here for blue sky thinking, so where could this go? What are the applications? These are the activities that we did in the co-creation. So we had Miro boards, we had face-to-face, we had virtual, we had Lego, we got them playing the role of Sarah to get the empathy. The feedback from colleagues was it was a really nice break from clinic and got them really thinking outside of that space. And so that's a section where you can pop your feedback on where everyone put that. Any questions, any thoughts about the project?
One question to understand fully. So is it that you provide these videos to the medicine students?
Yeah, it's kind of multimodal in effect. So you've got the website will house everything, and then you've got the watercolor animation giving you the backstory. Then you go through the cooler tour where she fractures the wrist, you follow. Then you got the 360 videos which can be viewed on screen, or you can put them in a headset. So on the 24th of September, we're taking it with students, and we're going to say, okay, we're going to pull out the gamified elements of this and jump into the headsets, have that experience, and now she's gone to hospital 6 months later. Together, we're going to talk with the avatar, take that history, together work out what the treatment priorities are, where do we need to refer. So essentially, it's the simulated game of the healthcare pathway that they've got to engage with in the phase 2. First one's less clinical, it's more experiential. And then the final one is actually, go back to that first watercolour, and there's something there that absolutely jars every occupational therapist when they hear it. You know, I was very depressed after my husband's death, and I was given medications, and they're really working. And they're like, but what else? So that's the game in the third phase. It's E-Train, another piece of software. Watercolour comes up. What else would you? And then it guides them through making clinical choices and decisions, you know, and little multiple choice things put in there, and then you have an outcome at the end. Because of this intervention, she's in a much better place, implying that maybe she never would have fractured a hip.
And it's just for the medicine students, but also for the patients?
Oh, sorry, for occupational therapy and physiotherapy students first, but we've got 10 professions that it can be brought out to, and the clinical notes are in the background. So we don't have a school of medicine, and the gap in the research was allied health and interprofessional. So for that reason, physiotherapy and occupational therapy, who do work very, very closely together in clinic, we're piloting it with that profession, but it's got that option. It's not patient-facing, but there was discussion in one of the co-creations that perhaps we could actually do some educational pieces, especially in the community part, about health and lifestyle. Great.
So they've got the option to follow these cases as kind of patient simulations, but so they don't deal with real patients.
Exactly. I should have said that up front.
And then they can kind of follow the different cases, and then they're making decisions, and then they can see how kind of what results out of their decisions.
100%.
And how they treat the
That's it. So it's a safe space to practice rather than just getting chucked in and traumatizing people.
I see. Sorry.
In summary.
Thank you.
No problem. Thank you very much.